Welcome to Marin Poets Live. I'm Neshama Franklin. I work at the Fairfax Library and I love poetry. After this program airs on TV, it will appear on the Marin Free Library website as part of a digital archive, which also features biographies of the poets and links to our collection. For this month's program, we feature Kim Rosen. And welcome, Kim.
Oh, I'm so happy to be here. Thank you.
Are. So, as we ask, I bet you have a Marin poem in that sheaf.
I do.
Give it to us.
I do. And this is from the days when I lived in beautiful Inverness. It's called By Paper Mill Creek. As a match to grass, turning shape to fire, to smoke, to ash, to space without end. The turkey vulture swoons on the wind over the slow creek, swoons in expectation. A thrush flings her small body up from the coyote bush, stroking the same slope of air as a dragonfly, wing to wing, without thought, like friends. Wing to wing without the thought that one could end the other. And I lie down in the sliced grasses, the dry grasses that will turn with a single spark from meaningful beauty to the nothing smoldering always behind it. The shape-making eye of the world. My eye, for instance, chestnut with shards of green and gold, and the black hole at the center, like the center of the vulture's eye, the center of my mother's eye, the center of the eye of the steelhead running the mud valleys below the throb of the creek's body, the black portal through each particular into everything.
You sure stitched it all together there. That
you.
was a very delicious poem.
Yeah. Thank you.
And I love the little, they're slant rhymes or whatever, but they're all in there like punctuation.
So
like
nice
percussion.
to have that noticed.
Yes.
It's all in the music, isn't it?
Right, it really is.
Yeah.
And the fact that the elegiac quality of it's here, it could be gone like that.
Yeah.
Ooh.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's holding a lot
the
in
nothing
one moment.
smoldering behind the shape-making eye of the world.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes, and then you give yourself credit for being a bit of a shape maker yourself. Congratulations. Okay.
Wow, I never saw that in the poem. Thank you.
But you did.
I got it. I get
Okay.
it. Yeah.
All right. What comes next?
So I do want to say that I have the great privilege in my life of being a voice for poetry, and usually it's not my own poetry. I have worked with many wonderful musicians speaking mystical poems, and the poems of Rumi and Rilke and many others, but I don't usually give myself the opportunity to speak my own poems, which tend to be quite a different genre than the poems that I speak with music, for reasons that I find fascinating, but I don't want to take time to say. So I say that as I introduce this poem. My poems are mostly very, very personal, as close to the bone as I can get. I was told by Galway Canal, my first poetry teacher, that he said to me, you are not Rumi. You are a modern poet, and your job is to speak the unspeakable, to get as close in as possible. And of course, the unspeakable is that which goes beyond the mystery that can't be spoken, which wonderful poets, and I hope there's some of that in my poems. But to me, the unspeakable is also what we don't allow ourselves to speak. So this is called The Aerodynamics of Ice Cream. In those days, there were only a few kinds at the Stop and Shop: chocolate, vanilla, coffee, and strawberry. peppermint and mocha almond if you drove a few more miles to Brigham's. I remember the day my mother discovered banana. The sweating yellow scoops, her unstoppable joy making blue fire of her eyes against Penobscot Bay. Sugar was not yet poison, the diabetes still hiding inside her cells. Then she was a redhead and still a size 10. And if her toddler girls were a bit chubby in their matching fisherman knit sweaters and their baby blue leashes, they would grow out of it soon. My father taught us the aerodynamics of ice cream, how to lick from the bottom of the cone. His first job had been hand packing the tubs at Dimpy Murphy's ice cream parlor in Portland, Maine. He would gain 30 pounds that summer and spend the next 70 years fighting the fat that threatened 3 times to take out his heart. At 85, the cricopharyngeus muscle went, and he could no longer swallow. 150 pounds lighter, he still refused the feeding tube. Only ice cream would go down. Coffee had to be Brigham's or Seal Test. Everything else came back up. Can you kill me? The hospice worker shook her head. Can I do it myself? After my mother's unstoppable screaming, the flying books and brushes, when she had finally slammed herself behind a door upstairs, my father would take us out for ice cream. My sister and I, on the vast back seat of the Bonneville, did not look at each other. The vinyl stuck to my skin where my pink shorts had bunched between my chubby thighs. You girls are lucky. You can leave when you go to college. Nobody moved the whole way to Brigham's. As if to move would move something inside us, we had to keep still. A coffee cone for my father, me and my sister too, and a tub of hand-packed mocha almond to go for my mother.
I love that so much. I love the specifics of it and the kind of plainness of it, the anecdotal, which contains kernels of, oh my God. But, you know, that kind of brisk voice, you know, not clad in poetry, but it's the real stuff of life.
Yeah.
So I'll just gobble those up like a coffee ice cream cone. Give me
You're
more.
the best. Thank you. Yes, it is very strong, you know, obviously, because it's so personal, but it's also a joy.
Right. Well, one of my favorite phrases is the more personal and specific, the more universal, which is the paradox that I just love.
Isn't that the best? Yes,
Yeah.
me too. So, this is a poem that also takes place in Marin County, but as several of my poems do, it takes place in Marin General Hospital. It's called Biology for Stan. An hour later, I came back into the room. In the purple light from the window, I could just make out the outlines of the empty chairs and the squares of the machines on their poles. Silent now. Patches of dark had gathered along the near side of the bed in the ripples of the sheets. I checked the rolled towel holding his jaw in place, straightened his head and right leg while there was still time. All through March, our fingertips studied how history unwinds inside a body. We stroked his arms and legs as he explained in the language of flesh he so loved, pressed into poetry in the labor of his breath, thoracic, rhomboid, brachii, gluteus, the atrophication of muscles, like a course. Infant development in reverse, he said. Each day the gastrocnemiae were more liquid in our palms. Each day the biceps swung more pendulous. His hands between our hands turned hoof, paw, fin, wing. We massaged his feet, and 80 years of calluses flaked into our fingers. Layers of the gray laminae littered the blue plastic sheet for a few weeks. Then the shedding stopped. The skin on his soles was as tender as a newborn. So many things can become normal. Weaving my right arm like a shuttle through the warp of tubes and drains to encircle his shoulders. My left arm through the patchwork of bandages at the base of his spine to cup his sacrum, to rock him. Bending the straw at the puckered place, holding the cup upright, while the clear liquid moved up to the elbow of the plastic and across. His agile tongue athletic until the breathing tube, poking the straw out when he finished. It is his tongue I remember, crushed and swollen from the intubation. How it hung out the side of his mouth as those last breaths sawed through him. I stuffed it gently back between his teeth while it was still warm, pressed the mandible closed, rolled a towel, wedged it under his chin while there was still time.
What a gift you gave each other.
Oh my God.
I mean,
What a gift. I'm so glad you get that.
yeah.
That was a
very
gift
beautiful.
to be a part of that process.
Yes.
In such openness.
Yes.
You know, with no
exactly.
denial. It was
Right.
quite extraordinary.
Right, as the body dissolves in front of
Yes.
your very eyes, that which is not needed anymore, but is still there. It's still the container for this
Yeah.
person receding.
Yeah. Mm.
Wow.
Thank you for getting that.
Okay.
Yeah.
Let's have another.
Okay, this poem has a trigger warning on it, and I'm serious. I'm not making. I'm actually not making a joke. It's a poem I wrote shortly when it became more and more obvious that rape was being used as a weapon of war.
Yeah.
It's called Dissolutio, which is the phase in both alchemical processes and also in Jungian psychology when the element in the alchemical process and the human in psychology begins to lose identity and dissolve, and the unconscious material starts to bubble up as we dissolve into not being who we thought we were. So this is called Dissolutio. That night, the other face pressed through mine, the nerve net igniting my fists and thighs on the soft body beside me, ramming and ramming those rifts in my craving for something to crack. Could I have been the soldier digging the broom handle all the way in till you could hear the girl tear, or the third or fourth or 10th in line for the 9-year-old, the 16-year-old, the 65-year-old there on the gymnasium floor? Could mine have been the husband's fist in Westchester, Harlem, Mexico City, or the back of my own mother's hands making mark on the wet cheek of her daughter? Do they wait inside me who loves God to break through my fist, my face, in the right combination of element, flame, and flask?
So you took something that is the most unspeakable, and you said, okay, it's here, and it is human, and it is horrible, and I will explore it as fully as I can.
And
So
I will admit
Yeah.
that I can find it in myself and in fact have seen it burst through and come out
Right.
in really extreme moments.
And the kind of hammer-like quality of the poem carried that forth.
Thank you. Yes. Yeah, I think so often we identify with the victim
Yeah.
And yet, as Walt Whitman said in a phrase I can't exactly say, I am every man.
Yes.
I am everyone.
Exactly. And that was so interesting to have your mother's slap in there.
Yeah.
Ooh.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah.
We are not immune to anything.
We are not immune.
And we are capable of possibly anything.
Yeah.
And that's what you did there.
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
Thank you.
Around 11 minutes, just so you know.
Okay. Well, what I want to do, and it's a good time to do it, is I want to do a few of my translations of Rilke. Now, I don't speak English, but I'm surrounded by wonderful human beings who do,
Right.
and I work with a dictionary. I make a translation of the original poem, and then I send it out to all these wonderful friends that I have, and we work together to find something that has allegiance to what Rilke spoke.
It takes a village.
Yes, and I love this communal way of
Okay.
creating translation. So this is from the Sonnets to Orpheus. It's the Sonnet to Orpheus, which is in Sonnets to Orpheus 1, and it's the third sonnet. A god can do it. But tell me, how can a human find a way through the lyre's strings? Our mind is split. And where two roads intersect within us, no one has built a meditation temple. Singing, as we learn from you, is not desiring, not striving towards something that can be achieved. Singing is being. Simple for a god. But when do we simply be? And when does the God pour through us the stars and the earth? It is not in your passion, young one, though the voice in your mouth is unstoppable. Learn to forget that outbreak of song. It doesn't last. Real singing is a different movement of air, a breath out of nothing, the space inside a god, a wind.
That's pellucid Rilke, without kind of German hangings.
Right.
He's talking straight to you, and
Yes.
you're talking straight to me, and
Yes.
telling us what we need to know. So that's a beauteous translation of taking the spirit of it and making it so apt, so contemporary.
Yeah. Thank you. Yes. I love this poem. This is called The Departure of the Prodigal Son, also by Rilke, translation I did with my bevy of friends.
Yes.
I want to say that, poems take me and they own me for a while. They become my teachers, they become my friends, my guides. I know a lot of poems by heart, probably over 200 at this point. And this one is my guide right now. So, it's called The Departure of the Prodigal Son. Now, to walk away from all this entanglement that is ours and yet does not belong to us. That, like water in an old well, reflects us trembling, distorts the image, that hooks us again and again like thorns. To walk away from this and that we long ago stopped seeing, so familiar, so commonplace were they. And then to look back and see at last, tender, forgiving, as if for the first time, so fresh, to realize how impersonal is the suffering that comes to each of us, that fills childhood to the brim. and then to walk away, rending hand from hand as if to reopen a wound. To walk away. Where? Into the unknown, into a unfamiliar, warm place that, whatever happens, remains indifferent, like a backdrop, a garden or a wall, and to walk away. Why? Zeal, mission, impatience, dark expectation, from not knowing, from not being known. To take on all this, to let go all hope, to let fall whatever you may still be holding on to, perhaps to die alone, not knowing why. Is this the opening to the new life?
Wow, do we need that right now?
Oh, yeah.
And I'll tell you what bonged inside me as I read it. I have experience with 12-step stuff, and it's talking 12-step to me,
wow.
just like that.
Yeah, to walk away from all this entanglement.
From that which makes you crazy and doesn't help.
Yeah, and is ours and yet does not belong to us.
Exactly.
Thank you, Rilke.
Right,
Really,
right.
really.
And again, a very strong, clear, contemporary voice that he knew and that you focused for us.
Yes.
That's what that did. So now we have 5 minutes. I just want you to know, and I want, I love the Rilke, but I love a little Rosen.
Okay, well, here's one that may be politically incorrect, or it may be totally politically correct right now.
Yes.
It's a prose poem. It's called American Woman. I'm sitting in the park eating my turkey and lettuce roll-up, and this woman, who looks like a little tractor, is talking on her cell, yelling, I should say. I'm looking at the lines of her, the right angles, like in a 7-year-old's crayon drawing of robotic invaders, male, from outer space. The way the jaw juts thick and parallel to the square of the shoulders that look like they could be bulletproof. I'm looking at the way her t-shirt, what did it say? Save the whales or something? Hangs from the iron-coated breasts, billows from the shoulders that could do the job of an intergalactic quarterback, around the smaller but not small hips, the baggy pink shorts slightly caught up at the crotch. And I'm seeing my mother, a little tank herself, churning through her territory of perpetual disappointment, who was not so different from this woman, another American woman whose husband also went slack to her thrust. Whose husband also went slack to her thrust, turned a gauzy veil of a man, too limp to pierce with all that wild lunging. And I wonder when this happened to American women, when the shoulders squared, the hips narrowed, the jaw became an armored prow cracking open away, her way. And I think about the thing we pledge allegiance to every school day, little hands to hearts, called freedom, and how rail as we might against being fenced in, there are no fences. When there are no fences on the outside, maybe we build them inside our bodies. The Talmud says, make a fence around the law. That's where the ark comes from, the fence around the holy ground where the Torah rests. And I think of Omar's sister in Kuwait, who doesn't mind her veil, likes it even, especially on Sundays when only women are allowed in the gold market, when you and your girlfriends can let the beauty of a bangle flood into your cells, mixing with the singing, swelling sounds of your friends, crooning over topaz, ruby, carnelian, gold, and the flutter of her hips against yours, and the way she reaches past you, brushing against breast or belly under the veil, her arm flashing flesh among the folds, each woman free inside her little tent to float in the soft currents that pattern the cells like sea-shaped sand. And they all know the others, too, are trembling, and the men wait outside like they have since they were boys, at the lip of a mystery they know is not theirs to enter.
Ooh. To hell with political correctness. It's just a whole series of complicated images that we wrestle with all the time. And there's all the labels and all the stances can be exhausting. So you had both fun and difficulty with that scene. And I love the women and the veils and the bangles and the sweetness thereof. So we're just about done with our time, and it's been absolutely illuminating. It's been just beautiful.
Thank you, Neshama.
So you are the voice of poetry, and your very own. I'm so glad that people out there will get to hear it. Very important. Thank you so much.
Thank you so much for the opportunity.